Greetings, everybody, and welcome to another edition of the Metal Command podcast. Tony here with you, and today I am bringing you an interview with myself and Roland Grapow, the guitar player for Masterplan, and we are here to talk about the 20th anniversary of the first self-titled Masterplan album, and obviously that came out back in 2003. AFM Records has recently reissued the album with 3 bonus tracks and a bonus live DVD from a live show that they did back in 2003. So it had been a long time since I'd actually listened to this album, but I went back and revisited the record, and I do like quite a few of the songs on it. So I know a lot of you out there absolutely love this album, and I'll be honest with you, I have a pretty unique insight on this record. Because I remember when many of these songs were demos with other people singing, singing guide vocals or whatever they were doing, back before Roland was even dismissed by Halloween. He had played me, 2 or 3 of these songs at one point. And I think I heard one of them over the phone, and I heard one of them in his studio at his house in Hamburg at the time. But we do go back and discuss this album. It's a pretty in-depth discussion. There is a lot of stuff that happened when it came to the making of this album, and it has an interesting history. This was actually originally going to be a side project while he was in Halloween, but when they fired him, when him and Uli got fired, they ended up turning this into their normal band at that point, their full-time band, and pretty much started from scratch at that point. So we talk about all of that, folks. So stay tuned. Check out the interview. If you do like what you see and hear on this podcast, of course, hit the subscribe button, like this video, share this video, and leave a comment. But I know a lot of you have wanted to hear this interview and wanted me to kind of go back and revisit this album. So that's exactly what I did. And I really thank Roland for his time in coming on and doing this interview with me. So with that said, here's the interview. Check it out. All right, Roland, welcome back to the Metal Command Show. We are here to talk about the 20th anniversary of the first Masterplan album, which, for me brings back a lot of memories. You and I have some history, obviously, so we are going to definitely dive into this pretty deep, actually, because I remember demos for this thing so many years ago, and it feels like it's got to be 23 years ago. I remember hearing demos of songs that ended up appearing on this album. And so the new version has some bonus tracks, and you also have a DVD. So talk about the new version of this album that has come out. As of this point, it's come out in Europe, and it comes out in the US, I believe, in January. And talk about the reissue.
Yeah, I think the idea for making an anniversary album was just basically I had some live material from the band from 2003 when we did the first tour with Hammerfall supporting, and so we had end of the tour like a big show in Gothenburg. I think it was around 10, 15 or maybe more people. It was a big stadium.
Yeah.
And the film crew asked us backstage if we're interested to get also filmed like Hammerfall was, releasing also DVD later. And I spoke with the band at that time, and then of course we were all interested, but the budget was quite high, and we spontaneously called AFM Records in Hamburg, and so they said, "Nah, we don't have the budget for you now, and it's too early. You need 1 or 2 more albums, studio albums, before you make a DVD." And we decided we just do it, So we spent the money from our merchandise, what we just made on this tour, and it was quite, I think, around €4,000.
Mm-hmm.
And then we recorded the show. The show was just, I think, 50 minutes long because we played 8 songs as support slot. And on the end, I took the material home to my studio, and then, I had a line for many years, and I was sometimes fooling around with the audio, checked it, and I was like mixing it for fun, just for myself, and never thought about releasing it.
Mm-hmm.
And I always thought it's a bit wasted to have such a good material and not releasing it. And then the anniversary idea came, and I thought, I'm not really into it just to make an anniversary album with nothing new on it, but I thought this video makes sense now because we have a different lineup now, and it doesn't make sense to release a DVD from 20 years old lineup. And I thought this anniversary album would be like perfect for this. And that's how I started it the most. It's not about just re-releasing the old album and with like some bonus tracks from Japan and this and that, And of course, it's a nice thing, and I'm really proud about it now. That it's a bit late. It's nearly 21 years, in January.
Right.
And, but that's how the idea came, basically, to make it like a big kind of bubble out of it.
Yeah. Well, you have some bonus tracks, and the bonus tracks, actually, the album had 2 different track listings. You had one for Japan and one for the rest of the world. And then some of those bonus tracks that were in Japan were on the single for Enlighten Me, actually. You had the Led Zeppelin cover, which I thought Jorn did a really great job on, to be honest with you. And you had The Kid Rocks On, and you had, obviously you had the bonus tracks for Japan and Europe. And so, like, I remember getting 2 different versions of the album, and now they're all the songs are on one disc now, which I think is a little more convenient, as you might want to say. But that was a trend back then, because they would do a lot of different track listings for a lot of bands. I mean, I remember the Dark Ride, for example. They swapped out the first song, like in Europe and everywhere else. Mr. Torture was the first song, but in Japan it was not, right? And they kind of did this different track listing for the first Masterplan album.
The main reason is, I think, I spoke with Marquis. Avalon is a record label in Japan, and I spoke with them, and I didn't understand why they wanted to change it. Why? Yeah, because Japanese market doesn't like this song "Enlighten Me" so much.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
and I was shocked. I said, "What is the deal to put a bonus track on the album instead of the song "Enlighten Me"? Come on, it was a strong. Even if you don't have it as a single there in Japan, it's a strong album title, And I never understood this philosophy of this label, and which I'm still working with, But then, the single came, export album charts, and Burn magazine was Enlighten Me was #1. So it was strange, and we always played it in Japan, because we didn't have much material. We had just one album out.
Yeah.
So we basically played nearly every song from the album, and a couple of cover songs when we had our first headline slot in 2003. So I thought it's now great to have these bonus tracks as well, and especially the Led Zeppelin cover. I think Black Dog was not meant to be on any album. It was just a special thing for Spanish label.
Sure.
And later it ended up on the single as well. And but this song was the first Jorn was singing on it. He came to Hamburg to my studio, and we spoke about if he's interested to join the band. And then he listened to all the not demos anymore. The album was recorded already. But no vocals, guide vocals from me, and some without. And he liked it. And then we spent, I think, just 6 hours together. He came in the morning, 9 o'clock or something, and at 6 was his flight back, afternoon.
Yeah.
And it was 3 o'clock, and I asked him, "Can you sing the song already? Because we need to deliver it as soon as possible." Yeah, no problem. He made two runs, and he nailed it so good. Yeah. I mean, I was smiling, and I was confirmed on my own feelings. This guy is the right person.
Yeah, that the song Black Dog has a really weird sequence too. Like if you play it on guitar, it's a very, very odd. It's a very odd sequence to play, actually. And I thought you guys did a great job on that.
Yeah, it's how you can say, it's like a. I'm not really into theory in music, but there's some shift. You can't count it right.
Yeah,
and we took the original song from the album, and we just made our own click track to the original. And Sneap did it. I wasn't able to do that, but made it. He took the time changes from John Bonham from the drum, and we kept the middle part like this. And then I played it just to the click, and I also played bass on this song, so that's kind of challenge, and it was a lot of fun, to be honest. I didn't try to copy the solo part. I did my version, but That's how I interpreting the style of Jimmy Page somehow with my kind of, without copying Evernote or something like that.
So we're going to go all the way back to before this all started. And where this all began for me, in my opinion, was you meeting Roy Z, right? Because you switched, you basically, before the Dark Ride, you were doing a lot of this Yngwie Malmsteen type stuff. You were doing a lot of this guitar shred type stuff. And then you met Roy Z. And, when you talk to Roy Z about it, he kind of, he talks about how you changed as a player, basically going back to what you originally playing before you were in Halloween, your kind of original playing style. And then you switched the type of guitars you were talking about. So this is pre-Masterplan. This is before Masterplan even became a band. This is before you were out of Halloween. Talk about that switch and that transition for you in not only the type, because you were using Strats, like Yngwie used to use, but I think you really found yourself as a guitar player, right around that time, which obviously preceded the first Masterplan album, because at that point it was a side project. It wasn't going to be an actual band per se, but it was a side project. Talk about, meeting Roy and changing your guitar style back then.
I think some of my friends or some fans know that I was on Rampage before, and most of the time I had like a Les Paul style. At that time I was very influenced by Michael Schenker, and I never bought a Flying V at that time. I don't know why, but I preferred Explorer guitars at that time from Ibanez, later Gibson, and I still have my Ibanez. I bought it back, which I use on Rampage, and I had many kind of Gibson Les Paul style guitars from Tokai, because I never had the money for a real Gibson, And later came something like Valley Arts, which was a Fender style, but was humbucker, because I was a big Toto fan of Steve Lukather. And when Eddie Van Halen came out, I had a Fender Stratocaster. And I couldn't get a good sound out of it. It was not a 79 or something. I bought it. One of the last Fender Stratocaster in the 80s, they stopped this kind of big headstock, and they made more modern kind of styles. And now they make it now again, but if I call it the 70s style, And I made the same. I put a bigger hole in the wood and to make a humbucker. So, but basically, I was always a Gibson kind of guy, and then Wyke, of course, remembered that. So when we had our first bad meetings, that was before the Dark Ride, I came to the rehearsals and they talked to me that they're tired about my kind of solo album kind of stuff and this kind of Fender sound and Yngwie Malmsteen cloning. And I was a bit shocked, to be honest, because I know many people writing me now from Halloween fans. They're missing my Stratocaster days and the sound. And I still love the sound, what I had on the solo part, especially in Halloween. And you play a bit different when you have a Fender in your hand, with a treble booster. You have, it's more percussive sound for me. I can play arpeggios easier. I can play faster on a Stratocaster. With a Gibson, you have to more melodic playing, you're forced to be a little bit different, So when we did the Dark Ride, I said, okay, this conversation I remembered, let's play Gibson. I had some at home, of course. Then Roy was talking about the Dark album style we wanted to create with the whole band, the management, and Roy. Roy got the instruction to do it like that. And he knew about it, how to do it. So he showed me on my Les Paul style guitar I had at home. It's made by Boris Domanger, who makes all guitars for Scorpions. He's from close to Hamburg now, and he was always my guitar technician or repairer. He made new frets in it, galloped sometimes, and paintings and stuff. So he fixed always my guitars, and I bought this guitar from him, but never really used it. And then Roy showed me how to change the strings on it. I had heavier strings on. Instead of a 7-string guitar, which I never tried to buy, I put really heavy strings, like a 7-string, but the whole the higher E string we left out,
Right,
So
right.
you start with a 65 on the bass string, which is normally, 52 or something, or 48 or 46, some of them. And 65 is already bass string. So it's like the triggers, we took stainless steel bass string, and the rest is a E-guitar string. I left then just one string out, And I fell in love with this kind of idea. And then even you made down-tuned the E string, which went to low A. So when you hear Escalation 666, it's on low A and half step lower maybe. Sometimes we make this kind of half step extra. And I liked it so much. And then I fell in love with the sound. And this guitar was used on every song, by the way, except maybe one or two from Waiki songs. Because every song was down-tuned, like If I Could Fly and all these songs. So we needed this sound, and everybody, I played 80% of the rhythm guitar, or 70%. And some parts, I think even Andy did. If I Could Fly, maybe he played. I don't remember really, but some parts here and there. Even Roy touched the guitar many times when I wasn't in it.
And so people know we're talking about the Dark Ride, not the Masterplan album. Continue.
Yeah. So, but that's when it started. With a guitar, I fell in love. I used EMG pickups, and then when we had the Masterplan album, we were forced to do instead of a side project to do starting a new band, and I thought let's continue with this kind of style, but not so extreme. So I think we had just one really heavy down tune, which is Bleeding Eyes. And the rest is just normal half-step tuning like we had before, but with a more modern sound. I used different amps. Right. Because before I had many years just Marshall, old school Marshall from the 70s. Yeah. With treble booster and my Fender guitar, and that's it. And to be honest, some of the songs I recorded in Halloween was also Les Paul, to be honest. Nobody knows that. But Still We Go as an example. I played all the rhythm guitars, Les Paul. It's something that's in the fingers. People doesn't even realize. Oh, your Strat sounds great, and then I'm smiling. It's not even a Strat,
Yeah. Well, so again, this started off as a side project, and I remember being at your house, hearing demos. You had various singers, kind of demoing some of these songs, kind of like to get an idea of where you were going to go with them. I know Into the Light was kind of a track that might have been used for the Dark Ride at one point, because I know Marcus. He had his bass track still on that. But I remember when it started, and I'll never forget you, and I think it was you, and maybe it was Uli asking, hey, do you have, Uli, I think, asked me, do you have any suggestions for a singer for a side project? And I don't know, it might have been me that I might have emailed them back. I said, well, a dude that would really kind of fit that music would be Russell Allen from Symphony X. You remember that was the talk in the old days about that. And I think I remember Into the Light, I think the original title might have been Rain. I think I don't know if I'm correct on that, but yeah, it was called Rain. And I remember you had the singer from Metallium kind of doing some rough vocals on it, just to kind of.
He's more or less a friend of us, so it's not that we ask him, can you sing? Because Oli had a side project, Rainbow cover band,
Yep, I remember that. Yep.
And so he was singing there as well, and I think they lived very close to. So when Uli wrote songs, he always asked his friends of him to play guitar or maybe singing on it, And so when he played the song to us, it was totally done, The vocals were on, the lyrics I think were finished. I'm not 100% sure. And then we played it to Roy Z and the other guys later. So we recorded it already, but we never used it, or Andy was never singing it. Mm-hmm. So there was never a version with a whole band on it,
Yeah, but
so we recorded the drums, and Marcus and I did the guitars and the keyboards. Many of them were already done before from Otto Ferdi Dörnberg. He played also some funny keyboards there. Do you see? It's a kind of mix, like a kaleidoscope kind of thing. Everybody has something in it. And I didn't even know that Ferdi was playing keyboard. So he wrote later, "Oh, I'm on the album on Masterplan." So what? I don't know about that, this kind of stuff.
Right.
And this song was definitely, for Halloween meant to be, but also parts of Soulburn. We played to them, they didn't like it. So, and I liked all the stuff from Uli, and I asked him, can we do something together? Maybe a side project. First, I wanted to do my own, and then he said, I want to do something as well. Well, let's do it together. And then we thought about one of our favorite singer, which was Russell Allen, and you mentioned it maybe as well.
Yeah.
And Russell came to, I was flying to Los Angeles to Roy Z, and Russell, I invited there for one day as well. And I played him the songs, same like to Jorn later. And he was singing immediately to the songs I had was just 7 or something. So I wrote still after that 2-3 songs with Uli.
Mm-hmm.
And so he had many great ideas for many things, just, without lyrics, just miming something. First time listen, singing, next song. And it was really cool stuff. I mean, he's a great singer.
Yeah, absolutely. And so now we're going to fast forward a little bit. Now you're not in Halloween anymore. So you have this project, which now becomes a band, essentially. And I always said that you and Uli made a fantastic songwriting team. I mean, you really did. I mean, there was, I don't know what it is, but obviously with Uli, it's not common for drummers to be songwriters. I mean, you just don't see that too often, but he was a great songwriter. And I've always said it's a shame he's not doing music anymore, but you two were a great songwriting team. You have this album. Now it becomes a band. And so it's kind of like, okay, now we got to record this thing, at least get, stuff done. And you recorded pretty much all of the bass. And I know you had Jan Werman play some keyboard parts, but I believe you and Uli, if I'm correct, did some of the keyboard parts yourselves as well. This is before Jorn. So we're talking about you got an album to record, and talk about recording this album, because obviously you're kind of starting over in a sense.
Yeah, we started working as a band beginning of August after we were like leaving Halloween,
mm-hmm.
and recorded already in October, November the drums. So till October, we still wrote 3 songs, fresh, new. Like Heroes was new, Sail On, I guess, and maybe one more. I don't remember exactly, but it was really, really concentrating hard work. And in that time, I think in August, I was contacting Andy Sneap if he can record it with me in my studio, because we didn't have any record label, so everything was paid by myself from the money I still had left. And so I was like the executive producer. That means I paid, I organized everything. Really was really happy about that. I took this, like a captain to lead this kind of ship, or driving the ship, in a way. So, and he was happy to see my studio, everything there. We just bought some speakers, which he liked, some Yamaha. And now he never worked with my speaker I had in my studio. And later he bought the same. He loved it so much, so Janelex. And anyway, so I had great equipment in my studio over the years. Like from my solo albums, I paid everything and spent a lot. I still have used it here. Really good old stuff. And so everything was done in December, except solo parts. And then Jorn came first week in December and listened. So to get in touch with him took around 2 months. And he took the production home and wrote, I think, 60% of the lyrics. I wrote the other 40. And he came back end of January. And then we finished the album already recording. And maybe February, I was alone recording. Andy Sneap didn't have time anymore. So I did all my solo parts and overdubs in February. So that means after that, we were done, basically. Sure. And then I started slowly with my I started contacting labels, and it took like 4 or 5 months minimum. So it was already summer when we decided, okay, it looks like we found a label, and then they gave me money that I can go for mixing in the Finbox studio.
Yeah.
That was a long process, but the recording itself was quick, the writing.
Sure. So how did Jorn come into the picture? What made you guys decide to say, hey, I want this guy to be in our band? Did he express interest? Did you contact him? And, how did it come about that you picked him to be the singer of this band?
Like I said, we were really happy that Russell was interested, Russell Allen. But we had a strange decision. We wanted to have our own band, not just a project, And we thought it's clever to have our own singer, not somebody who's singing in 10 other bands. Like nowadays, it's normal.
Yeah.
But yeah, and then I asked Russell if it's possible to join us, maybe for 100%. And that was a bit naive, to be honest. And he said, no, I'm not leaving Symphony X. And
right.
I understood. And then I said, oh, then it's sad, but we need to find our own guy,
Yeah.
Yeah, it was no bad feelings. We're still good friends. And then my clever idea was maybe get another ex-member from Halloween, which Michael Kiske, So I talked with him, and he was very nice and happy to see me again. And then I asked him, and he said, yeah, I'm not into heavy metal anymore, this kind of stuff.
Yeah.
And I felt, that's sad, would be amazing to be honest. But, at that time he had many interviews and telling he's away from that heavy stuff. And then I said, is it possible that you still maybe with our future singer to make a duet or sharing one song or something? And they said, yeah, no problem. If it's not too hard or heavy, He did already work with Avantasia, as many people remember, shortly before. And he didn't use his name. But then I said, but not under Ernie, please. And he agreed, and he did a really great job. So, But then I said, okay, we talked, Uli and me, already a couple of weeks about Jorn, but we couldn't get in touch with him. And it was really hard. There was no website or contact address. And through a record label in France, I found contact to his wife, or future wife, so was girlfriend at that time. And then she told Jorn to call me back, And that's how it's happening. So it was a long process, but on the end, it went quick. Some days later, he was flying to Hamburg already.
Right.
And then after we finished the recording, he was really enthusiastic. He said, when I heard the whole song, so he was dancing and telling me on the phone, what a great material. And then shortly after that, he left his band, ARC, just for Masterplan.
Yeah.
That's how.
Yeah, it's interesting. So now you get this album recorded. You end up getting AFM involved, as far as, making the record. Now, as a brand new band, you're off. You got to play shows. You got to tour. I know you've put some clips up on YouTube from Wacken. There's that one clip with Kind-Hearted Light that you found. And so talk about this first tour for this album. We'll get into the songs here in a second, but, talk about going out and touring for this thing. You had some really, you had it's a brand new band. It's almost like you kind of start over because, brand new name, people knew you from Halloween, but you have a completely different band, different singer. And talk about going on tour for the first time.
First we needed to talk with AFM. We wanted to do something, or maybe the idea came from them. I don't remember exactly who had the idea first. Or I think I was not able to create a tour or asking other bands, can we still do? I think this came from AFM Records or something. And they said, okay, we will pay like an advance that you pay the tour bus. I mean, it's really expensive. Everybody knows when you're not the headliner, you're not making any money. You have to pay the tour. And they paid for it, and it was a pretty long tour. I don't remember exactly if it's 6 weeks or 8 weeks, something like that. And it was a lot of fun. Of course, our band was not even finished before the album came out. We just had Jannes Eckert and Axel Mackenroth came much later. We recorded the album already, without them. But we wanted that it looks like everybody worked on this album, That's why they're on the pictures and everything. And but now after 20 years, doesn't matter. So it was a really challenge. So I knew Axel from Hamburg, never played with him together, but I knew he worked for Gamma Ray and for the live shows, and I thought he must be good then, And Jannis Eckert, I knew he worked in the music shop, and he was a really good friend already, and I loved him as a person and a bass player. And he played not only metal bands, also in other bands in Hamburg, like blues rock and stuff. And in studios, he made a lot of work. But yeah, that's how the lineup came. And then we just hoped that everything works for the touring. So we never played together live or as a band. We started rehearsing. And then I realized that many of the material was quite difficult to play for me as a guitar player. So I had to kick myself, because we had many chord changes in a half-step way up and down, and especially the solo parts. This is a kind of Uli trick. He makes a song in a song, and it's moving half-step, like the solo parts, like higher or lower. Yeah. And then you play between the dots, and for me as a guitar player, it's like, hey, you have to think different. And of course, I made many mistakes live sometimes, it's like, but now I play blind the same stuff, 20 years. Sure. I don't even need to think about it anymore. It's normal. But in the beginning, it was quite heavy. And also we realized some of the songs, especially for the vocals, Into the Light, this long note on the chorus, Johan said, "You want to kill me? I can't sing this." We had this song 3 times on the set list only. And then we decided on tour, no, take it out. And somewhere as a bootleg in Paris, I remember. So this song, I think we never played after that again. And sometimes it's like, when the singer doesn't feel comfortable, you also change, but you can't decide it at home or in a rehearsing room. You need to play live and see what is good, what is not, Because also on the second album, just like Falling Sparrow, it's very low singing, And so if you don't hear yourself live, then the singer doesn't feel comfortable. And then right. People, of course, nowadays everybody has mobile phones and recording and showing on YouTube how many bad notes you can do. It's not nice.
Right. Yeah.
But it was interesting, but it worked out after. Also, it was Making Support for Hammerfall started, and the album came out a week later. So people didn't know anything about us. Yeah. So when we started the tour, they never heard anything except Enlighten Me. The single came out earlier.
Yeah. So let's go into the single, Enlighten Me. And I remember hearing that for the first time. I remember hearing the single for the first time, and I was kind of like, I liked the other songs better at the time, but it was definitely a different kind of song compared to what you had done previously. And what made you decide to use that song as the single?
I don't know, really. It's the most extreme song maybe from the album. It's like a mix between the style at that time. I mean, Uli and I, we liked a lot Face No More. And this kind of style is in that band, like this da-da-da-da-da-da-da, this kind of stuff. And Uli's version was a bit different from the chorus. He re-released it later on his solo album, I guess, and it was just one long note screaming. And Johan had this kind of rhythmic, which was amazing. I mean, he came with his melody. I said, "What this is? I never heard of it," And when AFM heard it, they also loved it so much. They said, "This should be this first single." And I said, "Yeah, cool. Why not?" But there was some controversy, is it right in English? Opinion of people. Some didn't like it, They said, "Oh, what is this?"
Yeah.
They said, "Oh, this is great stuff, but why you release Enlighten Me as a first song?"
For me, it was like when I heard the single, because you had Kind-Hearted Light was one of the other songs on there, and I'm trying to remember. And then obviously the Led Zeppelin cover was on that single. And I think Through Thick and Thin was the other, one of the bonus tracks on the album was one of the B-sides on that single. But it was like, for me, I'm like, people know you guys from a power metal band. I was thinking Kind Hearted Light would probably be the single, right? I mean, that to me, with the background you and Uli had, I would have figured, okay, this will be the single. Not saying Enlighten Me was bad. This is 20 years later. I mean, obviously my opinion is a lot different, but at the time I was a little shocked you would have released that as a single. But we can go into some of the songs on the album now. We'll go into so obviously the first track, Spirit Never Die. The vibe that I got from that is the lyrics in that song is about, hey, we just went through a rough time, getting fired. And, now we have this new band, and that's kind of the vibe I ended up getting from that song.
Yeah. I mean, this is like a teamwork song. I mean,
yeah,
many parts coming from Uli, some parts from me, and then the lyrics came from Jorn. And Jorn, I think we told him the story, but I'm not sure if it's about this story of Uli. I think it's just coincidence,
Yeah.
Basically, I said to myself when I wrote lyrics. I mean, I wrote Kind Hearted Light, Crystal Night. What is the other one I just mentioned? Sail On. So I always try to make hope kind of lyrics. I don't want to put my finger too much. Even Crystal Night, I had a bit fear because it was about the Nazis at that time. We had a big scene in Germany happening again 20 years ago, of younger people who were frustrated, especially from East Germany. And I wanted to point something, but without saying you're wrong, you're stupid or something. I don't want to do this. I just want to see this is a story, but we're all waving the same flag. Nobody's different or better or whatever. It's like,
right.
That's how I did it. And then when Jorn said writing lyrics, I said, just don't write too much about love stories or something. I don't like this. It's not heavy metal for me. It's like, many rock songs have this, but I don't like it so much. So make some positive or some funny stuff, We have also Crawling from Hell, It's not,
yeah.
We had also fun to have some aggressive words like demons and phosphor we had, which we never used, all the stuff. And it's just, I mean, I think Jorn is really good in writing lyrics. They're kind of pictures, like hard to explain. This kind of stuff I would never write. Like drive a big car like a rock star. This kind of stuff he took.
Yeah.
And I was smiling. And on the second album he wrote about my private story.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I said, don't write about me. I don't like it. So but it's really good. He's really good in that.
Yeah, so let's talk a little bit. Crystal Night, you said you wrote the lyrics to that song. And that kind of, I mean, who actually wrote the song? Was it you? Or was it Uli? Did you guys both collaborate on it?
Yeah, I wrote everything on the song.
Yeah, and that had, I kind of, when I heard it, because I could usually tell if Uli writes a song just because of his style of songwriting. And you have your own specific style of songwriting. The thing about Uli, it's interesting because if you go back and look at what he wrote for Halloween, I mean, he wrote everything from stuff like Push to, Wake Up the Mountain. What's the other one? Million to One. So he had a pretty diverse.
What he wrote?
He had a pretty diverse style of songwriting. I mean, he could write stuff that was extremely heavy or stuff like, Enlighten Me, right? I mean, it just, things like that, he was a very diverse songwriter. But you wrote Crystal Night. And talk about that track. I mean, was that an idea you had for a long time, or did that come up, with,
to be honest,
this band form?
I don't know if I have something like this before, because I felt in love with this rhythmic, this 1 2 3 1 2 3. I mean, it's maybe from my childhood when I was listening to Grand Funk Railroad. They had this song Heartbreaker, Heartbreaker 1 2 3 1 2 3, which is kitschy. It's like this, what do I say? Classical style, like polka, But somehow I have on every song, every album I have a song like that. Later I wrote Headbangers Ballroom,
Yeah.
It's the same beat. I really like it. It's dun, 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 dun. So when I wrote it, I had a working title called Judas Priest. This is my Judas Priest song. I don't know why. If they have a rhythmic like this, I'm not really familiar with all the back catalog, but it must be older style from them. And but later, then I said, okay, this is a kind of aggressive song, but also groovy, groovy in a way, and could be like. Then I was imagining like something could be in a stadium working, like I'm always thinking then, how would it be live working? This like ba 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 ba, and then this heavy part in the middle before the solo, and in the end of the song, da 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 da. So it's like kind of influences from the parts I learned on the Dark Ride and the down tune. And I said, oh, man, this can be cool, And then it started like that, I just thought about the lyrics later, and then I said it should be something more brutal.
And then Sober, obviously that comes after. That was a song you talked earlier about, possibly being a song for the Dark Ride, but you just never used it for that.
Yeah, there was this kind of piano, bim bum bum, then this da da bum bum bum. This is kind of this really progressive kind of rhythmic. So he's perfect writing songs in the rhythm part, like from the viewer as a drummer, but a complicated drummer, not every drummer writes like him, And but it was never finished. There was never a good chorus or solo part was not there. So I was searching and told I really liked this part he had, but I said we need to find something. And then I looked at my collage and my computer of audio ideas I had, and there was this part, this da 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 da, the chord, da 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 da, this chord. And then I thought, what you can sing about it is like I had an easier melody, like I'm not an after.
Yeah.
And Jon made, and the world is like a shiny diamond. So it was kind of, I was so happy when we found the chorus, and Uli loved it so much. And then the whole picture went right, not the wrong, beautiful. You were gone for a while.
I know, you left.
Yeah, I'm back. See me?
Yeah, I see you. Well, we'll move on to the next track. Obviously, the song Michael Kiske sang on, "Heroes," and talk about that whole collaboration. I know you touched on it earlier. He didn't want to do the band full time or anything like that, but what was it about that song that made you want to have him sing on that specific track?
This is a song I was really, like I always did in the past in Halloween band. I always watched what the other wrote, and I tried to write something which is not the same. It's a kind to make the picture round. Like mostly I ended up with heavier songs or a bit progressive songs, if you call Time of the Oath like this or Mr. Ego. Still it's a more metal song in a way, but the most metal song is maybe Someone's Crying or like The Chance in the beginning. Later I was more this kind of looking around what's happening, and the same I did when we had our material. I thought something is missing. It's still a bit this kind of Halloween element maybe. I thought about some Halloweenish kind of song in a more modern way, and I wrote this song, and I couldn't find a good vocal melody for this chorus. And we ended up making jokes, like Uli and me, like maybe the chorus would be like Rammstein. We did the little parts on the Dark Ride as well on one song. Remember there was this Uli song, I think, this rapping kind of part. And I had something like Du hast, du bist, da da. In German even we wanted to do this, So it's like, nah, it doesn't work. It's too extreme again. We have Enlighten Me, and then we have a power metal song with strange singing on it. And then I finally, after 4 weeks searching and trial error, and then I found the melody, and I wrote also the lyrics on the song. This is perfect for Michael Kiske. I said, that's it. So I asked Jon, is it okay if he would sing it? Why we need a second? So this kind of discussion. And I said, the old fans we have, they would love it. And so when he was singing it, I just received it. He was singing at home. He didn't want to come to my studio. And because he's really shy. He doesn't like when people see him singing. And we were happy. And then Jon made harmonies, was singing the rest of the song, like the verses, bridges, and so far. So I really loved the color between those. Michael is pretty clean and high.
Yeah.
Even this part is not so high. Michael said it could be higher because it was difficult in the mid range to get this sound. And I didn't think about it when I wrote it, but I'm happy how the result ended up. Yeah.
Absolutely. And Sail On obviously was a song you wrote, after you were pretty much out of Helloween and the band started. So talk about that track.
Which one?
Sail On.
Sail On, yeah. It started definitely with a keyboard melody in the beginning.
Mm-hmm.
I remember I had this, I think I started at the beginning of August. I was on Roy's place, I told you. And then we were talking about ideas, do something like that, do something like that. Then he played me, maybe make this kind of idea with a keyboard. And then I had this, and you heard it. This is great, But I made it in slow motion because I can't play keyboards. I made it slow, speeded it up a bit. And then I made the construction really rough and worked on everything. And then later Uli came with the idea to make a drum intro, which I really loved. And it's like similar, like the Where the Rain Grows intro,
Yeah.
And I said, wow, this is cool. And but this definitely came 100% after we left the band here.
Yeah. Well, we already talked about Into the Light. So one of my favorite songs on the album is Crawling from Hell, because it's got this really like aggressive guitar riff in the very beginning of the song. And actually, I would consider it probably the most aggressive song in the album. And talk about that track specifically, because I always felt that, man, this is almost got a little bit of a thrash vibe in the very beginning of it, right? With the opening riffs and stuff. And talk about the idea behind that track.
This is definitely, I'm not sure. There was one song, when 9/11 was happening, New York, remember? That was in September.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So that was the period when we wrote everything. And I think this idea came from Uli. So he was inspired and really sad seeing it. And he said, I need to write a song about it, And many people doesn't know, but he's a big fan of Annihilator, the band.
Yeah.
Jeff Watson is the name, right?
Jeff Waters, yeah.
Sorry, Jeff. I met him even a couple of times. And so this riff came from Uli, and I needed to learn it. So he has a certain style, I told you this came from. So I played it then with Andy Sneap. Uli wasn't in the studio, and I learned from the demo tape what he played there. Mm-hmm. So I think the whole song basically Uli Kush. Yeah.
Yeah. The thing that's, it's interesting because Uli, he played in Holy Moses and he played in some of these other bands that were thrash bands actually in Germany, when you think about it, and it's kind of funny. A lot of people know him from, Helloween and playing in power metal bands, but he actually was playing in more thrash bands at one point as well. And that was kind of the vibe I got from that track.
But his taste is really wide, He's from thrash,
mm-hmm.
and he likes old stuff from the 70s, like Rainbow. That's why he had a cover band, and he loved Cozy Powell, drummer and stuff. And then when we're still in contact, he's sending me songs which doesn't have anything to do with power metal or thrash. Like John Miles, this big hit music from the 70s. This kind of stuff, or Bob Seger. Bob Seger is not metal.
I remember. I'll tell you what. Uli was a very technically proficient drummer, and actually really smart when it came to that stuff. I remember one time we were talking. He sent me this email. We were talking about different drummers and different styles. And we talked about like Cozy Powell and Dave Lombardo and like Mike Portnoy. And I remember he wrote me this email. I'll never forget this. I felt like I was in music school because he like mapped out exactly their playing style and what they do to get the drum sound that they have, like how Dave Lombardo hits the double bass and makes his double bass sound the way that it does, right? He went through this whole thing it mapped out the different styles for these guys. So I always thought it was interesting, when you hear a song like from, Crawling from Hell, and he's in a band like Annihilator, and then like Rainbow. I mean, I thought it was always an interesting, he was a pretty well-versed schooled guy, when it came to playing drums. I mean, just how it was, Yeah. And we're going to move on to the song Bleeding Eyes. And actually, I hate to say this to you, I almost forgot about this track. I actually had to re-listen to it and remembered it. But let's talk about that song.
Yeah, it's also on the DVD, which came out now. Yeah, this song is, I wanted to make, again, thinking about the new material we had, something is missing. I wanted to make something really heavy, like I did, like Escalation, or, the Dark Ride parts on the end.
Yeah.
The outro of the song. And this tuning as well. I didn't have any of the other songs like that. So I just had this idea to down tune again and have this oriental kind of stylish, song. And I loved it, I remember I had a demo tape, and the solo I made, there was a pre-production. I didn't even use my amp cell, just some cheaper stuff. And I couldn't play the solo again in the same feel what I did on the pre-production. So I used the pre-production solo part. And it was kind of crazy with some effects on, And this song I really love. And it's like riding like a heavy animal, like on an elephant, when you hear the groove.
Yeah.
I was a bit surprised because at the beginning nobody knew the song, and later it took time. But I think it's a good live song, but people has to get used to it. When something is so heavy and slow, typical power metal fans doesn't like it in the beginning. It needs time. But later, we don't play it in a moment as well. But later they loved it on the second tour as well.
And the last actual song before we get to the bonus track, When Love Comes Close.
Yeah.
And talk about that track. Obviously, that's a lot different than the rest of the album as well.
It's definitely one of these, I would say, hard rock, old school song, like more bluesy. When I heard the pre-production, it's a very untypical song, and it's from Uli again, the song. And so when I heard it, I said, Uli, this is not heavy metal. Should we have it on the album? This kind of blah, blah first. And then, we played it to Jorn. He said, "Wow, this is great. I love this song." That's how he talks, very low and sonoric. And then he came with his singing on it. I said, "Oh my God, this is beautiful." It changed from a demo, which I thought nothing special, to one of my favorite songs. Because it's heavy in the chorus, but beautiful, simple in the beginning with the acoustic guitar and nylon guitar played.
Yeah. And
the thing is just on the top. Immediately I was thinking about Whitesnake and Cavalier,
That's the vibe I got from it as well.
I thought this should be power metal. That should be the last song.
Yeah, that actually became probably one of my favorite songs on the album. And it was different than a lot of the other material we had. Now, I'm going to go to my favorite bonus track, which is The Kid Rocks On. That was originally Japanese bonus track, because that was on the Japanese version of the album. And talk about that track. Why did you not originally want to put it on the main album? Because I absolutely love that track, to be honest with you. I think that's it. There's always those songs you don't put on an album. Like for me, from the Dark Ride, I think Deliver Us from Temptation was a great song and probably should have been on the album. Well, I think the same thing about The Kid Rocks On. I think it would have been well placed on the record, in my opinion. And talk about that track.
I don't know. We had thought about it, and maybe it's my fault, because I was thinking, what is a round album? We had this song, and this song was for me it's a bit too happy. Maybe the chorus melody was not really like Spirit Never Dies, not so deep, or like other songs we had, And it's just a message, like easy message, like Kid Rocks On, and it's a groovy song, and there are many situations where that songwriter, especially Uli, thought, why isn't it on the album? And later again we had some discussions about the second album. Some of his songs went there because they were too extreme for my taste. So I always thought about this fan base, not about if I like it or not. If something is too extreme, or is it good enough? It's maybe my taste, my fault, but definitely it's a great song, and I'm happy when people hit bonus tracks which are also good.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And we had also one song left which we never used from this album, which Bjorn was never singing, by the way, which ended up on MK2. So it's a ballad which we had there, and we still have one song which we never used. And this song is so modern and brutal, and not fast, but it's between, I don't know what is brutal, which band, like Slayer mix, Linkin Park, some strange kind of from the style of 20 years ago. This kind of and something like this. I wrote the song, and I wrote the lyrics were totally different, really brutal, like from a war. And but Bjorn didn't want to sing it, and so it was always left. And I'm always thinking, what should I do? I should release it somehow, But it still doesn't fit to Masterplan now. It's something I should just make as a statement. I should release it as a
well, you had through thick and thin, bonus track, obviously, part of the single for Enlighten Me, and obviously that was on. I believe the Japanese version. I could be wrong. Talk about that track.
I hope I'm not mixing it. One was my song. It's first Bjorn had it, and he didn't like my vocal melody, or he had a different idea, and then he wrote a really catchy chorus, which was absolutely not power metal or metal at all. It was so kitschy. I thought, I don't like it. Why you change my melody, And Uli also, he had the demos playing to his kids at home, and they loved my song with this vocal melody from the chorus. And so I forced you on to sing my melody again, And then on the end, it was good, but I thought, it's no magic. He didn't do the kind of magic there, It was a compromise, and that's why I thought I put my own song there as a bonus track. It's good, but somehow not so special.
I got you. So now we've kind of gone through the album. I have to ask you this. Andy Sneap, obviously, did produce this album, or mixed and did the same thing with the second album. Was working with him, or am I wrong on that?
Yeah, he didn't mix it.
He did not mix it. Okay. So was working with him, did that kind of inspire you to want to be a guy that, hey, makes records, you're mixing albums with bands, you're producing albums with bands? Did that inspire you to do that? Was this like the beginnings of that?
Not really. It was a different situation. I mean, we worked really close on recording everything, and he did the drums, rhythm guitars, maybe 50% of the vocals. And the bass I played as well, but then he said, "I'm busy." I think Testament wanted to record with him, and he said, "Can you record the rest? You know how to do it, like vocals and my overdubs, my solo parts." Mm-hmm. I did all, and of course I knew how to record and everything, but I didn't know how to mix albums. I did my solo album, the first one, which was kind of naive, not really good, and. But then some years later, I think it was 2007, for the third album, I felt it's maybe cool to have your situation more under your control, I never liked this kind of stuff, to give your baby to someone who's mixing it, and then, But then it took a long time to learn this kind of job. It started 2008 that I had my first band in my studio in Slovakia, and after that, it went wild here. People liked the sound from the first band. I think it was X-Core from Czech Republic. Mm-hmm. And first production opened my studio door for hundreds. So I had many bands coming here.
Yeah.
And then I learned slowly to Andy Sneap, I think 4 or 5 times. Every 2 years, I went there for learning something new or for new stuff came out on the market, to be up to date. Now he doesn't have much time anymore. I didn't see him. I see him every time he's touring, but not in his studio. 5 years already, because he's with Judas Priest, so busy, and other bands now.
Yeah.
But now I recorded my first, Masterplan album 10 years ago or 11, and now I'm mixing already the new album. 2-3 songs are done with the vocals, and the first song is coming out in January as a lyrics video, and then the second before the tour we start in March, normal video, I hope. So it's coming now, and I'm pretty happy with the sound so far. So you see, people should not think you have a computer at home and like many amateur musicians doing and thinking I do everything alone. It works somehow, but it's a long process, and you have 1,000 ways of working on the mix. Everybody has different.
Right. Well, that was going to be my next question, man. One of the last questions. When is the next Masterplan album coming out? Because it's been a long time. Like I would probably rank this first album and the last album, Novum Initium, probably as my 2 favorite records that you've done. So how's this new one shaping up? Like, how would you compare it to some of these other albums? And, when do you plan on having the album out?
Like I said, the single first comes out in January, and then I talk with AFM about album release, because I can't say it now if we finish till the tour with the vocals. The mixing is not the problem. It's already 90% done, and I just need to have some more lyrics and some singing. And if we have everything done till March, end of February, the tour starts, then we can have a release date already and say, okay, maybe they always need so long. I don't know why, like 6 months nowadays.
Well, that's because they got to make the merchandise in every factory that makes vinyl and CDs and shirts and everything else takes forever these days.
Yeah, the vinyl especially. It's a waiting list of 6 months here.
Yeah.
But that's the plan. Definitely something is moving now. I said it many times. Even I said 2 years ago the album comes out soon, but now it's a reality. Because main reason is I'm pushing now. It's also the tour. I don't want to go on tour with Firewind and co-headlining tour and making no new release. Coming just with something like that. It doesn't make sense. So it's a good for the album and good for the tour to show something new. And the material, I would say, definitely not like the first album, not like the second, which everybody wants to have, because it's 20 years later. I can't copy myself. I had a long break also from songwriting, to be honest, because I was so busy with my studio work. That's the main reason why we didn't release anything earlier, because always somebody is booking the studio, and then I said, next month, and so far. But now I'm pushing myself to say, okay, let's continue with Masterplan. And so we have this touring dates, which is great. And then we have a new album next year out. Then we have festivals coming, another tour is coming after that. And so everything looks quite busy next year. It's funny because I didn't thought about it 6 months ago. Everything is just like 4 or 5 festivals, that's it. But it looks like we have 50 or more than 50 shows next year.
Oh wow, that's a more than you played in quite a long time, actually.
Yeah, maybe 40, 50, something like that. 20 now or 19 was the first. Then we have some festivals coming, and then we go hopefully to America. And
yeah, that would be interesting. It'd be interesting for you to come. You've only played Prog Power. That was it. You never played over here aside from that.
No. Prog Power is already, I don't know, 7 years ago. I don't know. This Florida cruise, metal cruise. I forgot the name. 70,000 tons.
Oh, okay. 70,000 tons of metal. I gotcha. Well, hey man, I appreciate the insight. going back in time and talking about this record, its 20th anniversary of the first Masterplan album, and definitely fun to talk about old times as well, when it comes to this record and the music that came out. And it's, it was funny. I was looking through the credits. You actually thanked me in the album. I don't think I even remember that happening, but I saw that in there. I was like, hey, my name's in there.
Yeah. Yeah, we took care about these details a long time ago. Yeah. Also, the who was mentioning our name, Masterplan, is a Mexican guy. So he's also written. He was happy about it. And many people just saw now, oh, man, everybody, this club doesn't exist anymore. So some stuff I took out now, which is some contact change. So this kind of detail. Nowadays, I'm thinking, I'm just saying thanks to the fans. That's it,
Yeah. Oh no, I got you, man. Well, hey, it was great to talk about the record, man. I appreciate your time and giving some insight on this record and taking a trip back in time 20 some years. It's a lot of fun to kind of do that once in a while.
Yeah. I think it's nice that people have this kind of remembering and to get the whole songs on the album and the vinyl extra stuff beautiful. But for me, the highlight is the DVD. People will like it, and there's a lot of bonus material from backstage and behind the stage. We're showing some stuff, so people should watch it.
So where would you, out of curiosity, my last question, if you've done a lot of albums, over time, where would you rank? Where would you put this one? Would this be one of your favorite records you've ever done? Would it be like in the top 3, maybe the top 5?
I would say it's my number 1. Yeah.
Oh, your favorite record?
I think it's I'm the most proud of, because it's different when you're just a team guy, 5 members, and and some manager and producers always taking care, and you just play guitar and you don't even think much, But on this album, I was responsible for everything, with Uli, of course. But I was the engine, like I told you before, and I contacted everybody, like Johan, the producer, this and that, the record labels. I didn't have much knowledge, I just was pushed to do it, And then the songwriting, the lyrics, and so when you see more than 1 year later, the success came. And then we won the Breakers Border Award for the most selling album as a newcomer in Europe, from Germany, and together with other countries, which are pop artists, not a metal band. And it was like, what's going on? I never heard about this award, and still, standing, and pretty proud about it. And so it's like it paid off somehow. We are still in the market, The market changed heavy to the negative side, but we're still there. We can play live. People missing me a lot from Halloween. A lot of people writing me, especially the reunion stuff. Why you not? Blah 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 blah. Yeah. So it's proud, and of course I have many albums. Just yesterday I posted it from an American friend. He liked the Dark Ride, Time of the Owls, Better Than Raw, and Master of the Rings so much. And he saw this magical lineup we had there. So this may be something I'm really proud about it. It's cool.
Here's what I will always say. Here's what I say about Masterplan. I think your best output as a musician, in my opinion, has come with this band. Because your playing style changed a lot from when you were doing the stuff in Halloween, and I think from this album, the second album, I think the music that you wrote or actually played, I think that this was like your calling, like I don't know how to really make it a term, but I think you found yourself with Roy. And then when you moved on to this band, I think the best music you've done has been with Masterplan, in my opinion. I'm not saying the Halloween stuff was bad, but what I'm saying is that I think as a musician, I really think you found yourself with this band. And I think that's why, and because the Masterplan sounds a lot different than Halloween. I mean, it really does. I mean, it doesn't sound anything like it, in my opinion. I mean, maybe some songs here and there, but you developed your own style with this band. And I think, and along with Uli, starting to band off, with you, I think you really did a great job at doing that.
Yeah, that's nice to hear. Yeah, I think this feeling after the dark ride to have talking with Roy for many months about guitar sound, about different amps we use there, and now maybe I found my freedom. Finally I thought, wow, this is cool. It works for me. I play like myself. I'm not trying to copy anyone anymore.
Mm-hmm.
Of course, I have my experiences, my influences. And also I learned a lot from Waiki, making overdubs and this kind of staccato melodies, which I also use in Masterplan a lot still. But I hide it in the background as a color. It's not so but without sounding it really boring. And that's my key. I make harmonies very easy, like quick, like this, like 3-4 melody guitars. I don't need to think which tone, which that. I just make it like intros, Spirit Never Die, this kind of melodies. I make it like easy, and it's more like Brian May kind of thinking. It's I have some tricks which I don't want to talk about, but it's like obviously I have my own kind of freedom and style somehow.
Gotcha, man. Well, hey, it was great talking with you about this record, and taking a trip down memory lane.
Yeah. Thanks a lot, Tony.